60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Now, my guest today says, quote, 2023 is an opportunity for Nigeria to hit the reset button. Nigerians can no longer afford the luxury of incompetence and empty showmanship. End of quote. Now, he has been a special assistant to a governor, special advisor, a commissioner in charge of 2 different portfolios, education and science and technology. He's also been the national publicity secretary of the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress. That's before he defected back to the People's Democratic Party. Bolaji Abdullahi joins me on the program today. So thank you for coming on the program with me today, Mr.
Thank you
Abdullahi.
very much, my pleasure.
Right, my introduction, you were listening, I said, you said that it's an opportunity, this election 2023, an opportunity for Nigerians to hit the reset button. Nigerians can no longer afford the luxury of incompetence and empty showmanship. Surely you can't say 8 years of APC has amounted to nothing.
It's impossible to say that 8 years amounts to nothing. But Nigerians looking back in the last 8 years, I doubt if any Nigerian will want a repeat of these 8 years. And I mean that with all sense of seriousness, because I think within the last 8 years, we've experienced things in this country that hitherto we thought were impossible.
Such as?
You know, I never would think that a day will come that I will not be able to get up and say I want to go to Kaduna. Whether by road or by rail or by air.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the most perilous undertaking anyone can hope to embark on now. And that's just one aspect of what I'm talking about, insecurity. As a party, the APC promised that we're going to address 3 things. The economy. The APC promised that it was going to reposition the economy to make it work for everyone, being a progressive party. 2, they are going to tackle insecurity, right?
Yes.
And 3, they are going to deal with the issue of corruption. Now, if we hold them accountable on the basis of these 3 promises alone,
Yes.
you know, I doubt if even they will be able to, in all honesty, award themselves a pass mark, you know.
In defense of the APC, not that I'm a member of the party,
Yeah.
you know, but they will always point out to you that, for instance, on the question of the economy, cost of diesel, cost of fuel, it's a global reaction. We all experience, the world experienced COVID-19.
Yeah.
It's been tough for many countries to get back on track.
Yeah.
Would that change your opinion in any way?
It's not going to change my opinion significantly. If you are looking for mitigating arguments, maybe
Yes.
you can say those. When APC was campaigning in 2019, I was part of that, I regret to say. One of the things we promised was we're going to create a diversified economy
Yes.
away from oil and
Yeah.
crude oil. Now, in 8 years, this is the only government, as far as I can remember, that has kept the same set of ministers in position for almost 8 years. Now, that's a huge opportunity, right? ministers used to come and go,
Yes.
then they were not really able to do anything
Before
significant
they
or sustainable.
stabilize,
Before they
they're
stabilize,
gone.
they are gone.
Yes.
Now, for the first time, we have a government, and I must commend President Buhari for that, you know, that he has kept the same set of ministers from the beginning up till now. It's a huge opportunity. The drawback, of course, will be what have they done with that opportunity. So I think when a government promised that we're going to fix the economy, and create a diversified base for the economy in such a way that we don't, regardless of the volatility of the international oil market, Nigerian economy will continue to grow. We are going to look at the production sector, the manufacturing sector, the agro sector, the service industry and all that. So this hasn't got anything to do with COVID, right? In a fundamental sense, I mean. You know, so we should be able to look and say that the basic superstructure of this economy is beginning to emerge. At least we should be able to say the basic superstructure of this new economy that was promised was beginning to emerge. However, because of COVID, progress was slowed down. Right? Can we really say that? I doubt if we can. You know, so there's a point I'm making that in a fundamental sense, you know, I doubt even if the most patronizing Nigerian will be able to look and say, oh, this government has done very well. No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, so you've been, you know, you've served government both at state and federal level in many capacities. You've been a special assistant, you've been a special advisor, commissioner in charge of 2 portfolios, and that was in your home state, Kwara State. You've also been National Publicity Secretary of the APC, even though you're expressing regrets about that now. I remember August 1st, 2018, when you resigned as National Publicity Secretary and defected to the People's Democratic Party. Was that a difficult decision for you at the time? I remember interviewing you in your office in Wusetu as the publicity secretary then, and you even had cause to deny rumors at the time that you were defecting. So was it a difficult decision?
I would like to say that those 3 years were the most challenging for me in my public sector career, in the sense that I've had to find myself in a situation where it's difficult for me to say things the way they are. My background is as a journalist. I trained as a journalist. I mean, I believe regardless of what you do with politics, facts should remain sacred. You know, so it was becoming untenable for me to continue in that role and still keep my integrity, you know, based on my upbringing and my professional calling. You know, so I would, in that sense, I would say that living at the time I did was actually brought me some kind of relief. Okay, I'll give you an example. If you recall that the first 100 days of President Buhari was very difficult for everyone in the party. That was the time that his health was not really good, and he had to leave the country for an extended period of time. You know, and no one really had any information about what was happening. So I remember appearing on a TV program, and the interviewer asked me, "So, what's the state of health of Mr. President now?" And I said, "I don't have information." You know. And he said, "But you are the spokesman of the party." I said, "Well, the health of the president is a personal issue. I'm not his doctor. I'm not his family member. So I am not in a position to give you a definite answer on the state of health of the president." You know, so we moved on from that. I returned to Abuja the following day, and the DSS invited me. You know, how will you say you didn't know about the state of health of the president? You are the spokesman of the party. I said, "Well, I didn't know." He said, "But you should have said something. You should have said, for example, someone else was interviewed and he said the president was hale and hearty." I said, "Well, that person had that information, and he didn't share it with me." If I said, okay, the president was hale and hearty and he was actually doing a press up or push up this morning, I don't know what my interviewer knew.
And that's always critical.
I mean, you know, so I will end up humiliating myself on air. You know, so that's why I said what I said. No, are you sure it was not a conspiracy? I think so. Anyway, to cut a long story short, because of my inability to play some parts that were prescripted for someone occupying that kind of role,
Yes.
I became even a suspect, within my own party,
Yes.
And so at the point that I had to take a decision, it was a political decision. I'm not going to pretend about that. At the time I was taking a decision to leave, it was a relief for me. It was a relief for me because I didn't have to now maintain dual personality.
Yes.
I
Yes.
could finally be myself again.
Again. And, was it ever related? You're leaving the party, though. You left at a critical time, I think a day after your political leader, former Senate President Bukola Saraki, also left the APC. Was there any connection?
No, not so soon. He left, but I knew he was going to leave him before we went into the national convention because he discussed with me and he told me why he had to leave.
Yes.
I tried to persuade him
To stay?
to stay. I tried to give him reasons why we should remain, especially for him being number 3 citizen. I felt that was very important for our political group to hold on to that position, you know. But he said something that changed my mind about all that. Even then, I didn't see myself leaving immediately. Yes. He said, look, what kind of man will be accused of armed robbery and he will still remain with the people who accused him? It's the worst thing you can do to a human being. I, a number 3 citizen, I'm a Saraki. I mean, what kind of politics are we playing that someone will go to the extent of accusing me of armed robbery? So at that point, I realized it was personal for him.
Yes.
So it was no longer possible for me to continue to say, okay, let's continue to...
Let's stay here.
Let's stay here, because it wasn't my reputation, my personal reputation that was at stake. It was his, you know. So at that point, I said... But even then, the conversation about what I was going to do did not come up. You know, don't forget, we went into the convention and I won my election as the National Publicity Secretary for a second time.
Yes.
You know, so overwhelmingly. So I was expecting to continue in that position. But I must say that one of the critical factor that led to my exit at that point was the emergence of Comrade Adams Oshiomhole as the national chairman. If Chief Oyegun had remained, things would have probably taken a different trajectory, because he always found a way to maneuver around some of these difficult political
to manage a lot of things.
To manage a lot of things, and he would have pointed out a perspective that will make you also reconsider some things, you know. But with an emergence of a Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, who assigned himself the primary responsibility to remove Saraki from office.
Yes.
So anyone associated with Saraki, therefore, is by association guilty, and therefore fair game as well. So he came to the office. So when I sat in a room and the conversation is about how to bring down a Saraki,
it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable, you know. It's uncomfortable. I mean, it's either I agree with them or I will be forced to say, hey, guys, you can't be having this conversation in my presence, or I leave the room. You know. So at that point, things became a lot more complicated for me. And he was promising, give me a few weeks, Saraki will go down. This Saraki belongs to me.
Yes, that's your group.
That's my group. I mean, so then they began to take actions to undermine the party in the state that's under Saraki, and begin to create alternative structure. You know, dissolve the ESCO of the party in the state as part of the effort to bring down Saraki. But that's my political camp.
And you were one of those that, you know, wanted to be in the governorship race in 2019. I was so thrilled about that, and I remember communicating that to you as well at the time. But I can't help thinking that perhaps if you had been the candidate in 2019, you would have won that election.
I don't think so, because what happened in 2019 was what you can even arguably call a revolution. the grand philosophy of that was to end the Saraki political hegemony. Right? That was what that movement was about.
Any which way, just end it.
Those who articulated it, those who drove it, those who keyed into it, felt we needed to end the Saraki political hegemony. At that point, anyone associated with that political establishment would be affected, would be treated that way.
Yes.
But looking back now, you know, we can look back with a sense of vindication to say, well, you said we were not good, well, we should go away. So what have you got now? You know? Anyway, that's
another story.
Yeah.
You're running ahead of me there. Okay, but, you know, I want to give you one of your quotes now. You said your loyalty was constantly scrutinized because of your political affiliations with the former Senate President, Bukola Saraki. And that's been the story of your political journey.
Yeah.
You know, the whole trajectory has always been you being connected to him. You're going back to the PDP. Many people didn't think you should have.
My own reasons.
Yes, you know, gone back to the PDP. What then gives you, I want to frame this right. Why then do you think that you have a chance to win this senatorial seat that you have gotten under the PDP for Kwara Central Senatorial District? If, and I believe what you said, that people needed someone to hate, that led to the Otoge movement. The movement is still kind of there. I have a feeling they're waiting to revive it. If the Saraki dynasty is trying to still come up, there's still some people waiting. You know, why do you think you have a chance at all?
No, I think it's different now. I mean, we've traveled far away from 2019.
Yes.
And you know, I've said it elsewhere that I think it was Samuel Huntington that first came up with that concept. He called it authoritarian nostalgia, where people have fought so hard to reject a system and ended up with the one they don't need.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And they begin to now crave for
reminisce
and crave for that past that they fought so hard to reject.
Yes.
And that's exactly what is happening now.
Yes.
You know, people have realized that the falsehood upon which the Otoge movement was based had come to light. People have realized that it was all fake. The people, the brains behind the Otoge movement had left APC. They are now in SDP. Whether it's Professor Ibrahim, the Lai Mohammed group, Lai is still in APC, but his group entirely are in SDP now.
Yes.
Lukman, all the key drivers of the Otoge movement are now in SDP. So what you have now is the rump that is ascribed directly to the governor. They call them APC AA, right?
That's Abdurrahman Abdurrazak's APC.
APC, right?
Right.
So everything, you see, everything that is built on conspiracy will eventually unravel sooner than later.
Yes.
It's about personal integrity. I pay a lot of price for that, but hey, if you stand for something, you should expect to pay some price, you know?
Yeah. Join us again after the break. Your consultations going round, because I was following your trajectory, you know, consulting when you first declared, I think it was in February, early this year, you said you were going in. What did that reveal to you, you know, going to your people, you know, telling them, this is where I want to head to, you know, and it's interesting that you emerged as the consensus candidate as well. You know, why do you think, you know, you were consensus? Why did people agree that it would be you? And what was the feedback you got going among your people?
You know, the point is that when I decided to run for the Senate, it was a difficult decision for me because I'm an executive person. I'm someone who likes to solve problems on a daily basis.
Yes.
Right. Senate was not, legislative work was not something that interested me. But like I said at the beginning, I realized that Nigeria has got to a point where we have to really sit down and ask ourselves, what kind of country do we really want to build? This Nigeria, as it is today, is not working for anybody.
No.
You know, so that conversation will have to take place. What kind of Nigeria do we want to build? What kind of country do we want to live in and bequeath to our children? And there's no other place that conversation will take place outside the National Assembly.
Yes.
And I believe that if we are able to vote in a critical mass of legislators that understand the trajectory that the country should be heading, whether in healthcare, in education, on policing, on governance generally,
Yes.
we will probably begin to lay the foundation for the kind of future we want. So I began to tell myself, oh, I want to be part of that conversation.
Yes.
And I believe I'm competent enough to be part of that conversation. Yes. You know, and that was why I chose to go to the Senate. So when I proposed that as an alternative political path for myself, the leadership considered it and agreed that yes, I mean this is one we should put our foot forward in this direction, and that's how I emerged as a consensus candidate.
Yes.
You know.
So your microzone, this seat is microzone to Ilorin West local government area.
Yes, yes.
And they say that's one of the 4 local government areas in your senatorial district.
Yes.
It is the one with the largest voter population.
Exactly.
That would have also had an effect on that decision, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course it does, because once you take the Ilorin West is the most significant voting block in the 4 local governments that make up the senatorial district. So if you are taking they have always produced either the governor or the senator. The governor or the senator. Now, if you are taking the governor out of Ilorin West, and the current governor is from Ilorin West,
right,
you have to give them something in return. You can't take the governor and the senator away from Ilorin West at the same time. That would be political.
Where they have the numbers.
Where they have the numbers, that would be political suicide. What is equitably, what is sensible in equity may be foolish in politics, right?
Yes.
And that's why we say, no, it has to be Ilorin West, you know, and when it's Ilorin West, there's only 2 of us, and my uncle Alhaji Kaubaraje graciously withdrew for me. He felt it's a business for younger people, you know, and he made that sacrifice, you know, and then I...
Why do you think, though, that Nigerians are still denouncing this consensus idea? I mean, even though it is recognized as one of the ways that candidates can emerge in addition to direct and indirect primaries, but there's still this suspicion about consensus as if it were an imposition.
Yeah, consensus will always carry that that baggage, you know, that odor of imposition, force, in the general sense. But let's look at the alternatives as well. The kind of thing we've witnessed this year, Angela, has never happened in Nigerian history. The crass monetization of the political space. It had never happened in Nigerian history. In all the primaries where human beings were being traded like cattle, and American dollars were being spent to buy human beings to vote this way or that way. It had never happened. It had never happened. So when you are able to forge a consensus, maybe with little problems here and there, I would choose that over this
Going to the poll and then...
This buying, right? And what happened at the primaries level? Look, the so-called Progressive Party started it by when a progressive party is selling the presidential nomination for 100 million. And people were buying it as if they were paying 10,000 naira. Including sitting ministers. And nobody's asking, where is this money coming from?
Yes.
Right? Then our own business happened. Now, what I'm saying is that the political environment has become so monetized that even in general election, I doubt if people will come out without expecting to be paid.
Yes.
I doubt it. This is unprecedented. And that's why I said this system is not working. We need to find alternative, whether it is... I mean, let me go back to your original question about consensus. In the past, when people say consensus, it's probably because someone has been forced on people.
Yes.
Right? In my own case, I thank God that didn't have to happen, because there's only one other person, really,
Yes.
that obtained the form and expressed interest, and he graciously withdrew for me, and there was no other person.
Yes.
And it's unlike when you have like 5-6 people,
Yes.
right, and then someone just handpicked, and the other people were told will be told to go to hell.
Yeah.
Then you have problems there. Then they will, grudgingly accept because they have no choice. Then they are not going to be able to work for the party.
Yes.
They will just, when you slap someone, you should expect that person to cry.
Yes.
Somehow, so, But I think that, it's good, consensus is recognized, direct primary is recognized, indirect primaries is recognized. But I will pick any system above a system that believes or that entrenches this monetization, this craftsman. Because, hey, what are we telling young people? That all you need to contest election is money? That education does not matter? Pedigree does not matter?
Yeah.
Personal character does not matter? All you need to win election, to be in a position of leadership in Nigeria, is money. That's a very, 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 very dangerous precedent we are setting. And I hope that we'll be able to address this sooner rather than later.
Well, in researching you, as I normally research every guest, I read about your 2 levels theory that you espouse for members of the National Assembly. You say 1 level is legislating and oversight, and the 2nd level is community development. And I said, truly, shouldn't legislation be towards development, helping development? Why must it be separate?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, that's the way it should be. A legislator, to the best of my understanding, is voted into office to
make laws.
Make laws, legislate,
yes.
Right? That's the primary responsibility,
yes.
To make legislation, to make laws, and to also hold the executive accountable through the means of the instrumentality of legislative instrumentalities, and to ensure that the people get value for money in the expenditure that government is committing national resources or state resources into. That's what it should be. From a normative point of view, you'll expect that this is the only thing that legislators should do. But I'm telling you, any legislator, I've not been a legislator, I'm just seeking to be a legislator, but from what I've seen,
yes,
any legislator that limits himself to just sit in the National Assembly and trying to make the best laws possible will not return to that Senate. He will lose election.
Why?
Because he will be declared incompetent. Because a competent legislator, from a Nigerian sense, what I've seen, it's not measured by the number of bills he has sponsored or argued for, or how effective he is in doing his committee assignments,
yes.
But by the people who voted for him want to know what he's bringing back home.
That's critical.
That's critical. What is bringing back home?
Yes, I used to be against this constituency projects that legislators, you know, always sought to put into the budget. Because I thought that, look, when you were going into the National Assembly or State House of Assembly, you knew what the job was. The job is to go and make laws. But you've gotten there now. I remember one of them saying, when you come home during Christmas or Easter or Salah, everyone descends on your house and then you're telling them, oh, you know, we're not executive, we don't execute projects, we only make laws. And then they're looking at you and you are back from Abuja.
So where the streets are paved,
yes, with gold.
With gold.
What is our what are the dividends of democracy? And so having had that explained to me over time, I've come to grudgingly accept that, you know, yes, these constituency projects are essential because, and you just broken it down, the person won't come back.
No, he won't come back. I mean, I was reading an article written by my friend Waziri Adio last weekend, and he was talking about the rate of attrition in the National Assembly. He said we are bleeding, right? Is bloodbath what is going on at the National Assembly, because the longer legislators stay in the National Assembly, the better they get, and that's why they have no term limits. But if you look at the rate of returns, it's not even up to 20%.
This time was bad.
It's bad. I think it's less than 20%.
Yes.
Right. Now it's consistent actually, right? So look at the time, how much time is spent trying to train a legislator before they begin to understand how the process, then begin to settle down to real work. Then it's time for another election, right? Then because they've not been able to bring, quote unquote, the pork home, right? Then they lose. Even in terms of the constituency project you just mentioned, the senator or the House of Rep member is able to influence this particular project to his constituency, right? Then there's no guarantee that he will not lose the election, because the internal political dynamics will also play a role. Or it is a turn to zone it to another place, or some people within the party system just don't like this person and they want him out or her out and bring in someone else. Then that constituency project is stuck, right? Then the gentleman or the lady coming in will also have something new to put in the budget, and that one becomes an abandoned project. And that's why the country is littered with so many abandoned projects, you know, because most of these are constituency projects by legislators who have lost their seat, you know, over the years. So you find these constituency projects littering the whole country, and nobody's likely ever going to return to them. Enormous waste. So what I'm saying is that even when you are able to get this constituency project on ground, it does not guarantee anything. People want to know, how many school fees have you paid? How many hospital bills have you paid? How many weddings have you sponsored? How many Umrah, Hajj, or Jerusalem have you sponsored? How many burials have you sponsored? How many? These are the parameters. Okay, I'll give you an example. As I go around campaigning, telling people to vote for me, asking people to vote for me, they say, oh, it will help if you can fix this classroom for us. It will help if you can do this borehole for us.
Before the election?
Not right now as I speak to you. Right now as I speak to you. Right? I have to fix boreholes. I have to build classrooms. I have to fix bridges and culverts. Right? Now, if the people some people went to these same people 4 years ago and said, vote for me, and promised to do those things, they didn't do them. Now, I'm the one who want to seek election from them that will have to do those, right? Now, I'm not saying that applies to me or it does not apply, but what I'm saying is that if you have to spend so much, right, I cannot understand. You know, as a minister, I used to wonder why the legislators were so antagonistic of ministers. Why did they actually, I would say, why did they hate us so much?
Yes.
Why did they always set out to humiliate us as ministers? I cannot understand. they felt they had to go through these horrors to win election to become senators or House of Rep members.
And you just appointed.
And you were just appointed. And you are now the one spending the money.
You have a budget.
You have a budget to spend as you like, to propose as you like. You are the one who have this convoy of cars and security and all that. And you didn't have to go through the crucible of an election. Right? I can now understand it. I'm not saying it's justified.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm justifying it.
Yes.
But I'm saying I can now understand it. Right? So I think it's not about blaming the people, blaming politicians. The system is broken. The society is broken. Right? We need, I don't know where we can begin to fix it, but we must fix it, we must. If we must survive as a country. Fix it, we must.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. Now, I remember you as a sports minister advocating for women to be empowered through sport. So, as a senator, will you be focusing on women and children, or women or children?
I think we need to do a lot more for women participation in politics. We need to do a lot more. You cannot really claim to have a democracy that works for everyone if a preponderant part of your population is excluded in politics, namely women.
Yes.
Right. Out of 109 senators, I think we have only 6 or so women.
Or women, yes.
That's less than you find even in countries like Saudi Arabia, even in Afghanistan. Afghanistan has more women in parliament than Nigeria. Saudi Arabia has more women in parliament than Nigeria. And these were countries you consider traditionally patriarchal because of religious orientation. Right. But it's the reality of Nigerian politics that make it so. I followed the efforts of people like Senator Olujimi when she tried to bring the Gender Act. You know, it was a bit problematic because of some details that were included, and we tried to work with her to see how it can be improved. And I'm glad that the Senate at the same time, under Senator Saraki, said they were going to revisit that bill. Right, and I hope we'll still have the opportunity to work on it at some point to revisit it. You know, so I think that the issue of women, naturally, you mentioned the issue of children. It has been proven that where you have women who are in parliament, they tend to prioritize certain issues instinctively, right, than men. Issue of healthcare, issue of children. Right, women instinctively tend to prioritize this. So what I'm saying is that it is not just the right thing to do; it's a necessary thing to do, because human development is the priority agenda for a country like Nigeria. The issue of education, healthcare, and general welfare of human beings. You know, general development of human beings. You know, so I believe that we will do well to create situations where women, under the current situation. We need to. I've always supported what to call positive discrimination, what you like to call affirmative action.
Yes.
Right. Because you cannot create an equal playing field for people who have unequal resources, you know, and claim that you are fair to all.
Yes.
Right. So if we acknowledge that women have less resources, material resources, they have access to less money to campaign, they don't have enough time to participate the way men do, right, because of other commitment and responsibilities that they have, then we have to create situations that will provide for these limitations. And then make it possible for, women to emerge. So I believe these are the challenges, and that it has to be seen as part of the overall political agenda for Nigeria.
Yes, okay. So in your declaration, you spoke of your almost 2 decades of public service at state and federal levels. You said you had demonstrated a great sense of responsibility, courage, competence, loyalty, and integrity. And you called these, I don't know whether to use adjectives. You said that these are qualifications of leadership that Nigeria needs at this critical time.
Yeah.
How so?
You know, there are some situations we find ourselves in this country that we cannot solve them by being merely politically correct. There are tough decisions that need to be taken. And at the leadership level, a leader is not someone who does what the majority of the people want him to do.
Yes.
Or someone who goes in the direction, who goes with the wave of public opinion. Is someone who sees what everybody cannot see yet and is able to move people in the direction, persuade the people to follow him in the direction that he thinks the country should be heading. It requires a great deal of courage to do that, right? It is courage that you need when you get into office, that you will say, you'll be consistent in standing for what you believe in outside office when you get into office. You can't be telling us that you don't believe in subsidy when you are outside office, then you become president and say subsidy
is the only way to go.
Is the only way to go.
Yes.
Right? It requires a courageous leader to be able to say, yesterday, I don't believe in this subsidy. And today, I still say, I don't believe in this subsidy because I believe this subsidy is ruinous. It is only benefiting the few, and it is not helping the country's economy.
What
right?
about the argument from a lot of people that, at the point where people are campaigning, they don't really know the true situation of things until they get in. You're campaigning to be a governor and you're promising all these things. And then you get in and then you see that, even though your predecessor handed over to you the 75 million or so he said he left behind, it's on paper. It doesn't really exist in real terms. Can that be an excuse?
No, Angela, what do you believe in? What do you believe in? It's not about what can you do now. It's what do you believe in? There are certain core principles. Do you believe in subsidy? You may have problems with the degree of its implementation.
Yes.
The mode of its implementation. But do you believe that some things should be subsidized? If that doesn't require you to be the one sitting on the driver's seat, it requires you to have the intellectual depth, to have studied the history of subsidies, to have known what subsidies are used for, in what sectors do they deliver optimum returns before you take a position. And that is why when people want to contest an election, they are sat down and asked questions to know what they believe in. Do you believe that women should have the right to abortion? Do you believe that we should subsidize education? Do you believe that students in higher education should pay tuition? Do you believe that, you see, these are the fundamentals. So, and that's why I said, you have to have some conviction. And it requires courage. Convictions require courage. Right? So that's what makes the difference. So when I'm saying that the time for grandstanding is over, this is not the time for flowery rhetoric.
Yes.
This is not the time to stand up and say things to make optics.
Yes. Great speeches.
Great speeches. No. You see, we make so much, it's not a contradiction. We say so much about corruption being the death of Nigeria. From my experience, if corruption is going to kill Nigeria, and someone said Nigeria is dead already, I don't think so. So if corruption is going to kill Nigeria, Nigeria will have long been dead. Right. But in a sense, what they are saying is that the biggest challenge that we have in this country is not corruption, it's incompetence, lack of capacity. Look at the entire civil service system.
Yes.
Whether at the state level, at the local government level, at the federal level.
Yes.
The depth of incompetence, right? Then we're not now moved to governmental incompetence at the executive level. You know, people like to say, oh, politicians don't do this because they lack the political will.
Yes.
That's a very convenient excuse. When you say that, you actually give us a way out. That, oh, we know what to do. It's just that we lack the political will.
Whereas they probably don't have the capacity.
Don't even know what to do. Don't even know the first few things to do. How can we still be grappling with ASU strike in 2022?
Honestly, and you know, that just is heartbreaking.
Are you saying that in this country we don't have people that can sit in a room and say enough is enough? Here, so far, no further. We must put a stop to this. It's national humiliation. It's a disgrace to our country. This cannot continue. We must solve this. This has to stop now. There are solutions. There are solutions that can work. The conversation is taking place, but it's not taking place in the right spaces. So when I say it's time for integrity, for courage, for competence,
yes.
Those were deliberate words
yes.
that I believe should determine the direction of our politics or the content of our politics going forward.
And still talking about personal integrity, your resignation as chairman of the Nigerian Sugar Development Council, at the time that you resigned, did you have to resign? I mean, you were serving Nigeria, you were not serving any person personally.
Again, it comes down to personal principle. If I'm leaving AP, I was given that appointment because I was a member of the APC. It would be wrong for me to say I'm leaving APC, but I want to continue to keep this position. Like Chichidodo. You remember the proverbial bird in Aikwe Amas, the beautiful ones are not yet born. Right? Yeah. You like to eat maggots, but you hate feces. You know, you know. So there was no way it would have been untenable for me to continue to keep that position as the chairman of Nigeria Sugar Council. You know, because that position was given to me because I was a member of the All Progressives of Congress.
Yes.
So when I left that party, I will expect that no one asked me to leave before I handed in my. I know some people who left the party but still retain that retain those kind of board appointments. I don't think I'll be able to do that. You know, it was a personal.
Especially because it was a tenured appointment.
It was a tenured appointment, but I had not even done 6 months. You know, when this happened. You know, so I could have remained. People have made a few noises here and there. Oh, he has left our party, but he's still holding on to this position, you know. And I will just have muddled through somehow and remain there. But I didn't think it was right, you know, for me to keep that. So that's why I left. Okay.
Earlier on, when we started the interview, you talked about how you were sacked as sports minister. That was in 2014. When I first read that, I was now looking for the evidence or the reason for the sack. I thought, was there any kind of corruption involved or any untoward behavior alleged against you? I didn't find anything. But apparently, because you refused to, at a PDP rally, abuse your political mentor and leader, Bukola Saraki. I mean, and I read that and I thought, this cannot be real.
It's really, and it's quite painful in retrospect because I thought we were doing well, you know.
Yes.
In sports, I thought we were doing well. As Minister of Sports, I thought we were heading somewhere. We've won the Africa Cup of Nations. After 19 years, we won the Under-17 World Cup. We're African champions in all categories in athletics. We qualified Nigerian Basketball Federation for the Olympics for the first time ever. We were doing well.
Yeah.
We were beginning to lay the groundwork for the future Olympics, not the one in Brazil, but the one in Tokyo.
Yes.
We said, okay, we'll spend this period laying the ground for the Olympics, not the next Olympics, but the future one. You know, we launched the high performance system. We're beginning to really get the hang of it. We changed the Nigerian Professional Football League, signed a new contract with DSTV, and everything began to fall in place.
Yes.
Then suddenly this rally happened in Ilori, and they asked me to...
It was a PDP rally.
It was a PDP rally. The president went to Ilori to campaign. At that time, Dr. Saraki had left PDP, but I was still a minister, so I didn't plan to leave because I was largely apolitical at the time, you know, which was a kind of naivety. You know, I was holding a political position and I thought I was a technocrat. I was not going to be political, and I was going to be allowed to just get my work done, you know.
And you were getting the work done.
And I was getting the work done, so I thought that should be sufficient for everyone. You know, but apparently, no, the people on our political side were expecting me to leave, to resign from the government because they felt, when leader has left the party, what are you still doing there? You know, the people on the side of the government were like, oh, we can no longer trust this guy because he's Saraki's guy.
Yes, and Saraki is gone,
and Saraki is gone, so why is he still here? You know, so it's double whammy for me, always been like that. You know, so at that point that I came under intense scrutiny.
Yes.
Everything I did was being micro-analyzed. You know, when I scratch my nose, it must mean something.
Yes.
I'm not wearing the muffler of PDP, it must mean something. Not that I couldn't find any at the time. I wasn't wearing the regalia, PDP regalia, even though I never wore one, must mean something. You know, I was sitting there at the rally point. It must mean something for those people on our own side. Why is he still with them?
Yes.
You know, everything I was doing was being super analyzed. So the first crime for me was that I arrived at the venue without wearing any of the PDP insignia. So it must mean that my heart was no longer there. Right?
The Ashoebi.
Ashoebi, yeah? Then we got to the venue. Then there were people with placards everywhere. You know, Bolaji is not our minister. Bolaji is Saraki Mole. Bolaji Sak Bolaji. These are the people. You know, it was frightening. Like they were ready. I was the only one who wasn't ready. They were ready, you know. Different factions, people, you know. It's not in all situations that vultures are patient.
Yeah.
In my own case, the vultures started cycling the very day Dr. Saraki left PDP that now this is an opportunity. The position of the minister for Kwara was already declared vacant. So people had already doing permutations on who will take over.
And then you were not going.
I was not even aware. I was just doing my... you know? So I arrived there and I was met with this barrage of placards, different sides, you know, asking the president to sack me now. You know, then we go to the venue, you know, then they asked me, I was the most senior political appointee from Kwara, so I had to lead the president's campaign. Then everybody, one after the other, mounted the podium. Hey, Saraki, down with Saraki, freedom from Saraki, this, that, you know. Then they wanted me to, you know, say, you have to go and do something.
You have to say something.
I said, me? You expect me, Bolaji, to mount that place and carry microphone and say down with Saraki? What has Saraki done to me? My father will probably die today if I did that, because this can't be my son. Not because of Saraki,
yes,
but because, no, you don't do that. And that's why I said, if I had been invited to say make a choice and I decided to stay with President Jonathan, I would have gone to Dr. Saraki and said, Dr. Saraki, sorry, sir, I'm no longer with you. If I was able to do that, but I will not surprise him that way. No.
Because you weren't just going to go on the podium and say something
Denounce,
bland.
yeah.
No, they wanted something strong.
Strong. I had to rail against him the way other people were doing. I had to call him names. I had to abuse him. I had to show that I was no longer with him. I had to prove my loyalty to the president. Not that way. My loyalty to the president had to be proved with how I served him. And you know what? President Jonathan didn't think I should prove my loyalty to him that way. He didn't think I should be made to go on that podium to abuse anybody.
So it wasn't his decision.
It wasn't his. But even before we left that place, people had started whispering to him that he had to sack me today. He had to sack me today.
How long did it take for him to sack you?
As long as it took to get to Abuja from Kwara. Some people argue that, President, don't listen to them. The World Cup was coming. Brazil 2014. The World Cup was coming. This is not the time.
Go.
These people were like, these wolves were saying, sack him. Now you go play the ball. No be me go play the ball, but the thing where they do.
Yes.
Now they make those who they play ball, play ball. It's not by chance that we won the Africa Cup of Nations after 19 years. It was not by chance that the Super Eagles did not lose a single game throughout my time as minister. It's what we do behind that make it possible for those 90 minutes to count. But they didn't know. So I was on my way to the US as part of our preparation for the World Cup. From there, I was to go to Moscow for the World Indoor Athletics Summit in Sochi. So I arrived London, switched off my phone. As soon as I switched off my phone, text messages started coming. What is this? What's going on? And I read the first message I saw from my friend Yusuf Ali of The Nation newspaper. So he said, my brother, you can hold your head high. You've tried your best. What's going on? And I said, so while I was 40,000 feet above sea level, I had already been sacked. But that's fine, And like I told you earlier, I hold no grudge at all because the only painful thing was the work that we were doing. I felt that was important. But look at, since we left, look at what has happened.
Yes.
Look at what has happened. So in fairness, from everything that I had, not a single person has contradicted this. It's just President Jonathan himself argued to say, look, let's leave this guy alone. It's not everybody that will be a politician. Let him do his work. But he didn't have the ability to resist the pressure from people who wanted to take my position and who also wanted to play godmother, to a minister, and then I was like, I don't have any grudge because, like I said, if you stand for something, you have to be willing to pay the price for it. So it's fine. If I was President Jonathan, I would probably sack me as well. It's politics, right? Yes. But I felt it's not in the interest of the country because I felt that some people should just be allowed to do their work. So that's fine. That's how that goes. I'm
You're good.
Yeah, I'm cool.
Thank you very much for having us in your home, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
In the senatorial elections coming up. And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetunmobi.